Everyone makes mistakes. Whether it's a big mistake or a small one, everyone has experienced it. What matters is how we respond and deal with it, and how we are supposed to fix our relationship with others after we've made those mistakes. Emily is a 20-year-old woman who is currently unemployed. Every day, she stayed in her room to think about what she had to do so she could make some money. Her parents never complained about that, but Emily felt like a burden to her parents and wished she could do something about it. Emily cries a lot at night and her mother always finds out in the morning. The story begins when Emily just woke up and prepared for breakfast. She had a chance to talk to her mother when she was in the kitchen. After taking the food, Emily sat down in the chair and began to eat her breakfast while looking at her mother holding the broom. Emily didn't ask her anything. Then she watched her mother take a small chair that her sister used to play with. Her mother climbed up to the chair and tried to clean the spider's web on the ceiling. But suddenly, the chair broke and her mother fell on the floor. Emily stopped eating and went to her mother and asked if she was all right. Her mother replied with a smile, "Yes, I'm fine." Her father, who was asleep in front of the TV, woke up because of the sound. Her sister said resentfully that the small chair was broken because of her mother. Emily hears about it and then says, "It's not the chair you should worry about, but it's your mother who just fell. Got it?" Emily's father was angry with his wife for having done something stupid and disturbed his sleep. He then yelled at his wife. Without any words, her mother went straight to the kitchen while holding the broken chair. After that, Emily followed her mother and asked again, "Are you okay? Does it hurt?" "I'm okay, don't worry," answered her mother. Her father was still angry and followed them to the kitchen. Then he took the chair and flung it on the floor. Emily keeps staring at her father and tries to keep him from coming closer to her mother. She wanted to say something to defend her mother, but she realized that she had been doing nothing in this house and she felt useless. She just stayed there and did nothing. It hurt so much that she felt in her heart. She tried to speak, but those words never came out of her mouth. "Mom, I'm going to Auntie's house later." She wiped her tears and walked toward her room. Actually, Emily's father was a good man. He is a responsible husband. But the problem is that he can't stand his emotion and constantly yell and blame his wife if she makes a mistake or he's unhappy about something. In her room, Emily cried and kept bottling her emotions. She then changed her clothes and went to her auntie's house. Emily spent all day at her auntie's house and didn't want to go home because she would feel pain and angry, but she couldn't do anything. Her phone suddenly rang and she got a message. It was from her sister. "Please, go home. Mom wants you to go home." Since her mother had asked her to go home, she couldn't refuse. After that, Emily never left her room. She just silent and never says anything to her parents. That strange gesture was finally noticed by her mother. Her mother went to her room and saw Emily playing with her phone. "What is wrong with you? Why don't you go outside? Let's talk. Don't be like this. I'm sorry if I made a mistake." Emily pretended she didn't hear anything and stayed focused on her phone. Day after day, Emily kept running away from her father. She really doesn't want to talk to him, and this condition turned them into strangers in one family. Emily just wants her father to change. She wanted her father to realize that it was bad to go on angry and yell at others. But that became very difficult because her father seemed to feel no guilt at all. He didn't care at all. But at that time, Emily began to miss her father. Sadly, she couldn't open her mouth to speak and tell him about what she felt. "I love my mom and dad so much. But I hate him when he starts yelling at my mom. I don't know what to do. We have turned into strangers. I don't want to go on like this. I want everything back to the way it was. Thanks to Emily for sharing her story with us. She said, at this point, the two of them haven't spoken to each other. But let's hope that things can go back to the way they were, so they can go back to being a happy family and be able to understand each other.